Welcome to Death's Scar, where darkness comes alive. If you're new here, hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe for more tales that will haunt your nights. Now, let's dive into the story. The small town of Ravenswood was known for its peaceful nights and friendly neighbors. But that all changed one fateful autumn when the old Marlowe house, abandoned for decades, was sold to an unsuspecting family. The new owners, the Crawfords, were thrilled to move in. They had no idea of the dark history that lingered within the walls. The townsfolk knew, but no one dared to speak of it. They believed that some stories were better left untold. On their first night, strange things began to happen. The youngest Crawford, Emily, heard whispers in her room. At first, they were soft, like a breeze rustling through leaves. But soon, they grew louder, more insistent. She told her parents, but they dismissed it as the house settling. The next day, as they unpacked, Emily found a dusty, old diary hidden beneath the floorboards in her room. The cover was worn, the pages yellowed with age. She opened it, and the first entry sent chills down her spine. I can hear them. The voices. They won't stop. That night, the whispers returned, more intense than before. Emily could barely sleep. She clutched the diary, trying to make sense of the cryptic entries. The more she read, the more terrified she became. The diary spoke of a family that once lived in the house, a family that had vanished without a trace. As the days passed, the activity in the house escalated. Lights flickered, doors slammed shut on their own, and cold spots appeared in the warmest rooms. Mrs. Crawford began to see shadows moving out of the corner of her eye, always just out of reach. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, the atmosphere grew heavy, oppressive. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway, but when Mr. Crawford went to check, no one was there. The footsteps stopped as soon as he turned back to the dining room, only to start again when he resumed his seat. The Crawfords tried to ignore the disturbances, but they only grew more frequent. Emily, desperate to understand what was happening, dove deeper into the diary. She discovered that the previous occupants had conducted strange rituals, attempting to communicate with the dead. The final entry in the diary was a chilling warning: they are coming for us. We have opened a door that cannot be closed. One stormy night, as the wind howled outside, the Crawfords were awakened by a deafening bang. They rushed to Emily's room, only to find her standing in the center, her eyes wide with fear. The walls were covered in scratch marks, and the temperature had dropped to freezing. Emily pointed to the corner, her voice barely a whisper, "They're here." Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. The family huddled together, their breaths visible in the icy air. A low, guttural growl echoed through the room, followed by the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. The whispers returned, louder than ever, filling the room with an incomprehensible chant. The door slammed shut, trapping the Crawfords inside. They banged on it, but it wouldn't budge. The shadows in the room began to move, closing in on them. Panic set in as the growls grew louder, more menacing. The family could feel the presence of something ancient, something malevolent, watching them, waiting. In a desperate attempt to escape, Mr. Crawford threw himself against the door, finally breaking it open. The family fled the house, never looking back. As they drove away, the Marlowe house stood silent and dark, as if nothing had ever happened. The next morning, the Crawfords returned with the police, but the house was empty. The diary was gone, the scratch marks had vanished, and the air was warm again. The only sign of the horror they had experienced was the lingering sense of dread that followed them, a constant reminder of the night they escaped the darkness. But the house remained, waiting for its next victims. Because some doors, once opened, can never be closed. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Death Scar for more stories that will keep you up at night. Until next time, sleep with one eye open. You never know what lurks in the shadows.